it's Ileana at Awakening Cosmic Reality Show, and today I have Jane with me, who's a quantum energy healer, and she also does hypnosis as well. Welcome, Jane.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to be here. I always love meeting with people and chatting about these kinds of things, so it's great.
Definitely. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do as a healer and what you do with hypnosis and what these practices look like?
All right. Okay. So I practice in a number of different modalities. Um, and one of them would be QHHT, Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, as taught by Dolores and Julia Cannon. And then you've got quantum hypnosis and other regression techniques. And then I also do sound healing and quantum energy healing, but we can park that. I think though, so the quantum healing hypnosis is a form, a lot of people call it hypnosis, but what I would like to suggest is that it is more teaching people how to connect with their higher selves. And in essence, you're kind of channeling your higher self, okay? Because it's speaking through you. We call it hypnosis, but really you've got a mentor who's helping you connect to the higher frequency aspects of yourself. So do you want me to talk about the process of a QHHT session?
Yes, that would be fantastic.
Okay. So with a QHHT session, they're usually quite long. They're about, say, 5 to 6 hours. Some people might do them in less time. Generally, they should be about 5 to 6 hours. And a session will start with interviewing the client, talking to the client about the questions that they've brought with them, what issues are concerning them. And in that process, and everybody's different and everybody comes for a different reason, the provider of the service, or I don't know, the healer, or whatever you want to call them, it should really be helping you navigate your questions so that you can get the most out of your session, right? And that talking sometimes can take 2.5 hours. Some people, they ask questions that they're curious about, but once you actually start talking to them and you start going, well, what is the driver behind this? What is your concern? How did you actually feel about that? What memories does this bring up? How do you relate to that? Okay, you're concerned about this, but we can also look at all of these other aspects which kind of align with the issue as well. So during the discussion process, you sort of open up the client's mind. You expand their intentions as to what they'd like to look for. At least that's how I do it, right? Because often people will come and they'll have questions, but they don't realize how much they can actually get out of the process. And so I like to help them, how can we get the most? How can we find the answers? How can we help you heal? Let's look at it from all these different perspectives and see what kind of information we can bring through. Then what happens is you do a past life regression. Okay, and that's always really wonderful. And the past life regressions can be very interesting because the information that comes through can be literal or sometimes even metaphorical, right? Your higher self is going to bring through the storyline for the client in a manner that is the most supportive as it can, without triggering the ego or without putting you into fear or harm. I know that there are some histories, there are some anecdotes as you listen to Dolores Cannon, where people have gone back to more grueling, traumatizing lives. There are obviously techniques that you can use to bring the person out so that they can look at the situation more objectively, right? So they stand back and they watch. There are lots of techniques you can use to navigate some of these situations. What I find more and more often, though, is that the higher self will present a storyline in the form of a metaphor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody's not ready in their ego or mentally and emotionally to realize something that's going on in their lives, I've often seen things presented as cartoons, and then the drama will play out within a cartoon. So it's really inoffensive. And then the storyline comes through. After you do a past life regression, and sometimes people just jump from life to life to life. Some past lives are on Earth, sometimes they're galactic. I mean, you can go pretty much anywhere. And then after bringing that information through, you go to bring the higher self through. And that is when we start and do a chat and ask the clients questions. And that's usually the most enlightening aspect of the hypnosis journey.
Mm-hmm. And I've done hypnosis as well, and I noticed sometimes the higher self is very interesting. There's one higher self or two higher selves that can come in because there's aspects of the soul being, so it can present itself as more than one higher self. And sometimes they have names, they have genders, they have their own identities of where they've been. So this is what I've noticed, and I usually ask, which part of the higher self is this? Because sometimes it could be from different past lives that they're coming in as well, from a past life experience.
Basically, multidimensional soul aspects of the individual that come forward to present. Yeah.
Yeah, and they call themselves the higher self, and sometimes, like, you might be in a female body, but the higher self comes in as a male form. I've had that happen too.
Yes. I mean, if you think about the higher self and the higher self construct, the frequency of that consciousness is actually quite high. The way it's shown to me is that it's outside of physicality. There's a little bit of manifestation within matter to it, but it is much more energetic. It's at a higher frequency than light body, so to speak. So when I see that information coming through, I see that, how should I say this? Sometimes the information and the terms that come through are using the knowledge base of the client. So depending on how expansive the client's consciousness is, how sophisticated the terms they use are to describe concepts, sometimes the higher self might present as the higher self, but it might actually be a multidimensional soul aspect.
Yeah, exactly. And some of them say the name, and some of them, I'm just your higher self, and I'm here to help you to give you information about whatever aspects you would like to learn about yourself. So I always tell folks, come in for your hypnosis with an open mind, and be ready to explore what comes in, because sometimes what we think is what we want, there's more that comes in through it. So there's an opportunity to explore a lot of different things in hypnosis and get healing with it as well.
Oh, absolutely. The levels at which you can use QHHT, quantum hypnosis, BQH, regression hypnotherapy, what have you, there are no limitations. If somebody wants to go into childhood trauma or memories they can't remember, you can do that. If you want to take them back to before they were born and go into why did you choose to create this life? What energetics did you want to experience? You can go look at that. Like you said, you want to go and experience multidimensional soul aspects, which are maybe relevant, or the energy signatures are echoing in their current life. those will come through to guide you as to the energetic signatures that that soul aspect has carried, learned, understood, or is here to guide you for, as is relevant in the current life. So yeah,
Yes.
it's fascinating.
And they're always protected, right? When you do a QHHT, they're always protected by you, their spirit guides, their higher self. And it's so important.
Absolutely. So with QHHT, and the way I do quantum hypnosis, which is my own sort of thing, yeah, you always create your energetic field, raise the frequency, create an energetic field of protection, so to speak, so that the only parties to the process are really the individual and their higher self and their higher frequency soul consciousness lineage.
Mm-hmm. And as you're guiding people on the process of the QHHT, what usually comes up for you as the guide? What do you see?
Well, I have to be honest. So me as the guide, it really depends on the client, and it depends on the client's higher self and how much the client's consciousness has expanded. So how do I say this? If a client is very open-minded and a little bit more energetically connected to the higher self, mm-hmm. and the more expanded consciousness process, and the higher self is chatty, I'm sure you've had it where you can feel their higher self come in, and sometimes you'll get information or you'll see things. It's almost as if their higher self is talking to the client as well as you at the same time. Mm-hmm. Now, something to remember, and I'm speaking to the choir when you and I chatting, but for anybody who's listening, what's really important is that as the practitioner in a hypnosis session, it's really important not to lead the client, right? So it's really important the practitioner doesn't feed the client with ideas or concepts, because you want the client to describe and see everything in their own words, from their own perspective, without any outside influence. So if I'm getting information at the same time as the client through the client's higher self, the only way I will use it is to expand the degree of questions on a topic. I will never provide any information outside of that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And what if a person cannot connect with their higher self or a soul aspect? Sometimes I've had people say to me, I haven't been able to do a session. I just something is happening that just is not connecting. So what can we do in that situation? Can we still facilitate a session for them, or why would they not be able to connect to the higher self or access what they need from past lives or experiences?
I think, well, first of all, I think it's important for anybody who's interested in the process of hypnosis, connecting to their higher self, et cetera, that your connection is your divine right, and everybody can do it. Everybody can connect to their higher self. Everybody has I'll just call them the clair gifts. You just need to be taught how to step into them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everyone is capable. So what I would say is, you may have your hypnosis experience, you may channel, you may connect. Some people just need a little bit more coaching and guidance on the process of connecting. And it's as simple as that. And once you coach a person and take a little bit of time, and this isn't about weeks of coaching, this isn't about practicing meditation, although if you do meditate, you're going to be much more open and receptive, and you'll trust yourself. But fundamentally, you can do it in a half an hour, a few tips, and the person is usually ready to go. But what I find is the biggest block for an individual is their ability to trust the information that's coming through. Am I making that up? This is ridiculous. Really? Is this really what I'm seeing? And I think in these cases, what's really important is the more you allow yourself to deep dive and trust, the more the higher self will just guide you along the path. The metaphor, the story will always provide you with the information, the client with the information they need.
Mm-hmm. And it's about, because I've had people in emails saying, I've done so many different forms of hypnosis. I still cannot connect. I still cannot reach the depth of what I need to know about. And I say, then spend the time definitely before going in, even in hypnosis, spend the time to connect with the soul aspect, to try and reach the higher self, because sometimes they're not ready. They're not ready for that deep connection. I've had that happen, and I said, then just wait before you do the hypnosis. Don't discount it totally. Just wait and start doing the clairs, clairsentience, clairaudience, and listen to the messages that are coming in. Listen to the frequencies. Connect and ask to connect to your higher self. It starts with the request. I want to talk to my higher self.
Absolutely. Yeah. So similar to you, we teach people how to connect and be able to bring through and interpret that information from their higher self. And really it's just another way of, it's all channeling, really. But it's who you choose to connect to and the frequency. So one thing that I love about the QHHT, quantum hypnosis, BQH, what have you, is that you're choosing to connect to the higher self soul aspect, which is at a much higher frequency, and therefore there's less polarity in the information it brings through. When you're dealing with lower frequency soul aspects, there's still polarity paradigms that they're working through, still experiences that they're having in consciousness to learn at the soul level. So the benefit of bringing the higher self through is it is, sometimes you see the pictures of, the guide or the being that's looking down on all these fractals with all the information. It understands the game. It understands how all the pieces fit together. It understands the significance of every choice that you've made. And it can sit there and guide you with gentleness, love, and objectivity, right? Because there's genuinely a reason for every experience you're having.
Mm-hmm. It's not experiencing bias or ego like we could. So it has certain things already filtered out. So it comes in without those things to help us, to guide us in the sessions, and to just help us to gain clarity and understanding of things for what we're working with. So it's like there's no judgment. The higher self doesn't have judgment. It doesn't have anger. It doesn't have ego. It doesn't have preconceptions and biases. It's just pure energy that's there to connect with us, and it's there to help us.
Yeah. It's a more integrated version of you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it might sound differently than we do, but it's still us on a higher frequency. It's a soul aspect of us on a higher frequency. And people always ask me, is the dimension important? It is. And I say it depends. It really depends, because, the soul aspects exist on so many different levels. Sometimes it's important, sometimes not so much.
I think also the higher self is going to bring through the information that's most important for the client at that time on their path. Mm-hmm. So depending on how much you've expanded, some individuals are really going to be working on their traumas in their current life. And that's where the higher self will focus the clearing and the healing and bringing the information through, so the individual can sort of dump that baggage and get on with it. People who have spent more time healing within, expanding their consciousness through meditation, understanding who they are, I find that those people go galactic pretty quickly. They're the ones that are really bringing in their multidimensional soul aspects, and they're being taught why they came, the information and the types of consciousnesses that they're connected to, et cetera, et cetera.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think that really helps us understand the process of the QHHT and what can be done within it. Because really, I always tell my clients, come in with an open mind. Don't have too many expectations. Just come in ready with your questions, ready to explore things. And if more things come up during the session, that can also be looked at. So
Yeah.
you can go anywhere you want. You can go to any planet, you can go to any universe, you can go to any dimension in hypnosis. There's no physicality, no limitation of physical. The physical energy does not bind in hypnosis.
Yeah. So yeah, when you say that, you're absolutely right. But the individual has to be willing to allow themselves to take that journey.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing that will limit an experience is the person themselves.
Yes, definitely. And this is what when people email me, I always say, keep an open mind and be ready to explore, be ready to dive in and see what your soul frequency is at and see where we go with this. Because again, some people are, I want this, and this. And I say, well, focus on the most relevant and important questions that pertain to you at this time. If it's your health that needs the most focus on, healing physically, emotionally, and traumatically, whatever needs healing, put the most important questions first, organize it in priority order on what you would like to work on in the session. Because again, sometimes they don't understand how to order the questions as well. So I teach them the process of the questions. Why do you need, and some of them ask me, why do you need questions? Why can't we just go into it and get started?
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, ask and you shall receive.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Set your intentions so that the higher self, because the higher self and the higher frequencies, those energies, those consciousnesses will never violate your free will, ever. So it truly is an issue of asking, you shall receive. So you have to sit there and open your mind and ask for the information to come through. And that's fundamentally, energetically, how the synchronicities work. Guide me, show me, let me know I'm on the path. And the more open and expanded you become, then it becomes an open chat and the synchronicities are a bit more obvious. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, the questions help to sort of have an idea of what we'll be working with in the session, in the hypnosis session. So, and it's to help us as the guides to understand where we're guiding them on the session. So it's sort of like a little checklist for us to make sure we are giving the client what they really need during the session. And sometimes we ask the questions, and mostly, but it's them asking the questions too. So it's a kind of a combination of us and them. We work together as a unit. There's no separation. So it's a combined effort, team effort.
And I think that's the best way to take somebody through this type of journey. I couldn't agree with you more, where somebody comes in and they have questions, but they may not realize the type of information that they can get on the topic they're curious about. And then also there are sometimes setting parameters, like the higher self will come through and go completely off piste, and then you kind of have to run with it. Are you okay if this type of information comes in, or do you want to go here or there? So yeah, you're absolutely right to ask them to prioritize where they want to go.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, in a 5 to 6 hour session, you can get a lot done if the person is open-minded. And I say, well, what would be your perspective? How many questions should they create for a 5-6 hour session for a QHHT?
Well, I think what people need to understand is that different higher selves, some are more chatty than others, shall we say. So, and some are more literal than others. So depending on the higher self you get, so maybe what I usually say is, if we're doing a full QHHT, because my quantum hypnosis sessions are shorter, I say bring in about 20 questions. But then by the end of the 20 questions, we've probably asked 3 or 4 additional questions on top of each of their 20 questions, and then we sort of set the parameters as to what's important to you. Where do you want to go with this? How, like you mentioned, what healing's most important? So yeah, I'd probably say that that's what it is. And then as we go, depending on how chatty and how much information comes through, we focus the questions on the client's priorities. But I also find it's important with the higher self, because there's that element of asking you shall receive, but no violation of free will, that your answers are only as good as your questions.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I found higher selves can be quite literal and quite short. So you really have to dig and navigate and expand to bring that information through.
I agree with you. I've always said to clients, think about your questions. Take an hour or two to think about them before you even write them down. What's the most important thing to start with? And be as clear, concise, and precise as you can in phrasing the question. Because the more detail you can put in the question, the more specific you can be, you'll get the best results with that kind of phrasing. It's like, if you only ask, what is my higher self's purpose of connecting to me? You're not really asking the question, though. The higher self can say, I'm here to guide you on your soul life mission on earth. But why are you connecting with the higher self? That's the real question. Why am I connecting right now to my higher self? And what's the important purpose in my life right now? So something that's I find it more interesting when they ask, why am I connecting to my higher self right now in my current life for me to help me with? For me, that's more relevant than why am I just connecting to my higher self? So it could be broad or you could be very specific with the question.
Yeah, I would even like to suggest, I know we're talking about QHHT and that they could be hypnosis process, but I would like to suggest to anybody listening that you should always connect with your higher self for guidance, because it is you at the higher frequencies. And the whole purpose of this ascension process and consciousness expansion is to bring the ego in alignment with the higher self and to always be connected, have that choice of connection. So I'd like to suggest that the QHHT journey, or the quantum hypnosis journey, is a stepping stone to strengthening your understanding and your own connection with you. Because fundamentally, when you can bring your ego or your personality matrix into alignment with the higher self frequencies, you're uniting, conceptually you could look at it as heaven on earth, right? You're being guided on earth by your higher soul consciousness.
Beautiful, beautiful. And how does your quantum healing work in your practices? Because we had a chat about that. There's different forms of healing. So can you talk about the forms that you do and what is the process?
Yeah. Right. So I do a little bit of Reiki, and I know people are often most familiar with Reiki. But really what I do is like Ileana said, quantum energy healing. I think I'd like to preface the conversation of quantum energy healing with the fact that all of us have slightly different energetic soul lineages. So when we connect to our higher selves, our I ams, and we obviously have consciousness constructs which are higher than, say, the 12th layer. You can go to 13th, 14th, 15th. We've got templates that range in much, much higher frequencies. And through the higher self or I am, you can build a conduit to anchor, channel those consciousness levels, okay? So fundamentally, everybody is going to be doing their quantum energy healing differently, because their energetic lineage is unique. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would say is when I do my energy healing, I am channeling, I'm bringing through soul aspects outside of the 12D matrix that guide the energy healing. Okay. The main energetics, as I understand it, one is from the Andromeda galaxy. You could say it's at about a 13th level.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and that is more of an Arcturian angelic energy that would be considered almost like a unity frequency. This is the best I can describe it. It's outside of physicality, really. And then there's a founder consciousness that comes through. Now, I've been getting different information that the humans use the term founder in different ways, and they've created templating for journeying through the different densities in consciousness. So you could say that there are different groups of founders actually that work with different incarnation templates. Okay. Mine is more of the feline, Lyran, that kind of lineage. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I channel that information. So when I am working on an individual's energy field, you know, basically they show me the energy field with 12 layers and 4 different harmonic triads. And then I work with a series, I work throughout the energy field. If you perceive it as a sphere, different quadrants have different information, different purposes. And then I work multidimensionally, like first density through 12th density generally. Sometimes with more advanced clients, I'm taken outside where there's damage to higher. Some people have templating that goes up to 24. So sometimes I'll work in those templates for different reasons. But to describe the information they bring through, if I were to simplify it, the consciousness from the Andromeda galaxy is more of a feminine frequency. It's united, but integrated, but it feels more feminine. And it is about more like healing, and there are more sounds oriented that come through. Yeah. And those frequencies and those sounds seem to completely heal areas of the energy field, which is fascinating. When the founder aspect is working, they work hand in hand. It's very diagnostic, very technical. So everything I'm doing in the energy field, I don't even have words for some of the stuff I'm doing. They'll open up portals, and then they'll open up dimensions, and then they'll clean out like the portal on a multidimensional aspect, heal it, close it, shut the portal, heal the area. And it's going on throughout the energy field. And they'll work from the cosmic sun star all the way to the cosmic gateway. And then the human energy field has very important multidimensional, multi-density energetic vortices, also chakras that are on the outer skirts of the energy field. And so what they typically do, what they seem to focus on the most when energy healing, obviously we can navigate, asking you shall receive. So you can sit and you can navigate density within the immediate chakras. But their goal ultimately is to do almost like a mainframe upgrade or an energy overhaul, where they go through and they focus to the greatest extent that they can on removing the most important energetic blockages that are effectively blocking your higher frequency consciousness from being anchored into the energy field. So some clients just need to have their energetic sovereignty refined. They need some basic energetic clearing. There's so much density that's been embedded that needs to be cleared out. But then as soon as they can get to, it might be 2 or 3 sessions, they'll start clearing out the blockages so that they can anchor in the frequencies of the higher self into like the personality matrix, the first, second, and third layers. The way they show it to me is I call it the mainframe upgrade, it's because they're going to very significant areas in the energy field where the flow of energy has been blocked. So the higher frequencies only get to so far and then they stop. And so they'll connect in different areas within the energy field. So it's much easier for the energy to flow. And when they do that, there's almost like a natural healing process, because those higher frequencies, just because of what they are, naturally transmute the lower densities to some degree. That's a very high level sort of overview of how it works. There's a lot of fascinating stuff that goes on though.
And this helps to remove implants, entities. It helps to remove mind trauma even. Sometimes we ourselves, when we're under anxiety and stress, we create stress entities. So it might not even be an entity that's a being. It could be your own stress that's creating energy entities.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, people almost like torment themselves by creating, yes. Very much so.
Yeah, because I've also worked with Andromedans, the Arcturians, and when they do the energy healing, they're working on the whole energetics of the person, their original soul blueprint, and they can clear all that out. They can clear out the entities, they can clear out the implants, because they're working on the soul field vibration. They're working on everything on the soul field, and sometimes they even connect to the organs in the body. They could see what food somebody ate, what they drank. They could see the vitamin deficiencies, and they work on healing all of that. So they work on physicality and they work on the energetics. It's in multiple layers of the healing process. So it's never really physical or just energetic. It's both. These beings can work on multiple dimensions of healing.
Yeah. So I think your healing modality is a little different than mine. So I think we have different focuses or specializations. So I would say like the energy healing I do, at this point in time, they haven't focused it as much on that kind of physical alchemy or reconstruction, shall I say. There's a little bit, but the way I've been guided is more anchoring the higher frequencies and upgrading the energy system so it can hold more light. You know, that's kind of what they show me. So it looks like we have slightly different focuses.
Yes, because they like to do 50% physical healing and 50% light essence coding of the soul matrix blueprint, like the soul divine blueprint, getting that aligned for its highest healing. So, and that's, everybody does healing differently. There's no right or wrong approach to protocols and to energy healing abilities, because everybody interprets it differently too. If anybody asked me, can you show me how you do your energy healing work? Can you teach me that? This is something on a frequency level that's connected to us. If we were to teach them energy healing, they might interpret it in a different way than we even do this stuff. So it's how you connect to the energies of the universe. This is how your healing abilities will also work, because it could be different.
Yeah. So I think anyone who becomes a healer and moves, say, beyond a prescriptive modality, right? Because I know that there are some energy healing modalities where, you know, there's a specific way they tell you how to do it and you don't deviate. And that's fine, right? But as the individual, the more you connect to these energies and the more you channel and the more you're guided, you will bring your own information through. What I would say, though, is it is very helpful to talk to other healers about what they are seeing, feeling, and experiencing, because one, it can allow you to expand your perceptions and therefore allow yourself to be taught in your own process. Mm-hmm. Also, I'll find, like, I have a couple healer friends, and I might have to talk to them for half an hour, 45 minutes to understand how they're working, what they're seeing, how they're interpreting it. And then I'll be able to go, okay, so what you're talking about is when I'm seeing X, Y, and Z, you're seeing that. It's effectively the same thing, but we're seeing, interpreting it differently. Mm-hmm. And the reason also for a lot of that is that, higher frequency consciousness, they have to navigate your human mind. They have to navigate all your beliefs, all your preconceptions, all of, how far you've expanded or not expanded. We all have blind spots and blockages. Mm-hmm. We're still 3D. We still have work to do.
Yes, definitely.
So, right. So, like when I've been energy healing, like when I've had a client, I remember one woman, I was working on an issue in the right foot. And I said, ask your higher self to give you an image of what I'm healing, or a validation. She said, I see a yellow sunflower. Well, for me, that means absolutely nothing. But for her, she worked with Bach flower remedies, and that meant healing of wounded divine masculine and being in the right foot. That was the energy signature I was working with. So mm-hmm. It dovetailed exactly. And I had to laugh because my higher self would never show me a sunflower to explain that, but it showed her that because she had a reference point.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And I think people need to understand that. I think also when people are going into energy healing and the trust and the understanding of that, as I was being, and you may have had your own experiences, I'm guessing, that are similar. I remember going, well, why this and how that, and why is this happening here, and is it at that frequency? You will explain this, and I kept, basically the response was, we cannot tell you or use words to describe everything that you're doing. Because one, the words and concepts that I had or that we have on earth aren't sophisticated enough to do justice to what is actually happening, right? Mm-hmm. It's like our concepts, our perceptions are far too simplified. It's like having a child do very sophisticated work and not understanding what they're doing. And they said, you have to learn through experience, because if we explain it and you create your own perceived perceptions, you'll create energetic blocks, and therefore, we have more difficulty working through you.
Yeah. Well, for when I work with the Arcturians, the Andromedans for healing, there's several of them that come in, right, as energy to heal. And they look at everything in the body. They look at the energetics, they look at the physicality, they look at the soul blueprint, they look at everything. And if somebody's liver is backed up, they say, here's the root cause of this, because they ate the wrong thing, there's acid, the bile ducts are backed up, stoppered. The explanation is very simplistic for why this happened. Yes. And here's what we're going to do to clear all that out. On the energetic fields, on the physical body, they actually clean the liver, they clean everything energetically and physically. And they can see deeper than even the human mind, than when I'm working alone energy healing. Because when I'm doing it just by myself, I have to go each point at a time. When they're doing it, they look at the whole body and the whole energy frequency fields on multiple dimensions. So in an essence, they can heal quicker and faster, and they can do more healing than if I'm working alone as a healer.
Yeah, no. Absolutely.
Because some people don't want to work with the ETs or the higher essences. They just don't trust that. They only want to work with the energy healer. And I say, okay, I do that energy healing where I do it on my own, and I do it with the higher dimensional positive healer beings. So they always have a choice between the energy healing sessions, because some people don't want anybody else but the healer to do the healing. And I respect that. And that I always say there's a difference. When I'm doing the healing, it could be slower because I don't have helpers, having a deeper look. I am very thorough, but it could take longer. So
And I think that's a fair statement. I think that's absolutely true. I don't work with ETs per se like you. So I'm different in that way because I just work with my higher self. I am, and my higher frequency soul lineages, and then I bring the client's higher self. I am source spark, and then they come together and do the work. So I can't say that I have any experience like you do. I think that's really great that you have that. It's that depth and level of understanding of the human energy field. I think that's fantastic, especially in the physicality. I would say that's an area where I'm not as well developed.
Well, and I always, like when I'm working with the ETs, they're in light essence. They're not in physical bodies themselves. They're healing collectives. They're healing, they're beyond the 3D. Right. They're in 7D and higher. So, right. And sometimes different aspects of them come in for the healing. Whoever is best equipped to help with the healing for the person's highest good. So they come in. They're always positive, but they're not sitting on some ship using technology for healing. They're using pure energy healing.
I think that's a really important distinction. I'm getting lots of validations for that right now as well. Like as you're chatting, they're like, yeah.
Yeah, they don't, often people ask me, are they sitting on some ship using some technology to heal me? I'm like, no, they're not doing that. They're using pure light healing frequencies on different dimensions of realities for your healing. They're not using any technology because these beings are beyond technology. They're beyond physicality. So
I see that.
They're energetics.
Yeah, and that's also really great. That's important.
And people also ask me, I've had questions, I've lost most of my teeth. Can you regrow and regenerate all of my teeth through energy healing? And I'm like, and I say, I make no guarantees of that. I can't make promises to cure something. So I don't put out statements of, I can cure everything and anything. I don't do that because, again, healing depends on the individual and what they're going through. So what would be your response? Say if somebody, emailed you and said, can you regenerate my teeth?
Well, what I would say is that, is it possible? Technically, yes. But I think what people need to understand is that in the process of healing, okay, what I have found and in my experience and what I understand is that because there can be no violation of free will, okay, sometimes the process of that type of healing, well, one, may not happen, may take numerous sessions. It really depends on the energetics of the individual, and what their beliefs and perceptions are. Yeah. So I would say if somebody came to me and said, can you regrow all my teeth in one session? I would say, no, I don't think so. I don't
Same.
know if you've done that.
Well, what I say is that if there's any material left to work with, like if you have partial teeth, we can strengthen what's existing there. But if you've lost all of your teeth, then you magically expect your teeth to grow back. I say there's different types of healing, and healers can do different types of things. I don't claim to do that I can magically regrow all your teeth. What I do is I strengthen the material that's left. If you have bad enamel on your teeth and your enamel is degenerating, we can help to regenerate some of that enamel to strengthen the teeth. So if something is there to work with through the healing energetically, through the energetic healing, things can be strengthened and sort of boosted. So this is what my expectation of that is. If there's something left to work with, then we can work on healing that. But if everything is totally gone, then that's not a magic cure to simultaneously grow all your teeth back. And I'm using this as an example because I've had people say, can you regenerate my leg? It's been amputated. So it's like, well, if there's no material left to work with, then that could be a hard process.
I would also say that the state of consciousness of the human being, there is a state of consciousness that's required for anything like that to happen. And I would have to say, I really don't think the vast majority of humanity is at that state of consciousness to work with energy on those levels. When you look at the human energy field and why the individual has manifested an illness or anything else like that, there are layers of energetics that have been embedded in the energy field long before the manifestation of the illness or the issue. So the fact that it's manifesting means that you've got energetic templates which need to be found, understood, addressed, cleared, and healed to allow also and support the physical healing. And then there's also the responsibility of the individual in their healing process. The individual does need to take steps in the physical reality to take responsibility, to help themselves heal, to allow the process to take place. I think if somebody is coming and saying, can you fix me in one session? While I empathize with the situation, there's usually a journey to be done where the individual has to be empowered to take more responsibility for their own journey and their own choices, and to understand the energetics that need to be cleared at the different densities that they're held.
Yeah. And I generally, like, if I get requests, can you regrow my teeth? I just say that's a high expectation of results, and I cannot guarantee such a cure. Because again, everybody, can you cure this? Can you cure that? I don't look at curing things, I look at healing things from within to find the source to heal. If somebody has stage 5 cancer, stage 4, if you're on the brink of death, energy healing can help to strengthen what you're left to work with. It doesn't guarantee that it could permanently. There have been instances of permanently curing cancer with energy healing, but if you're gone so much where you're at the brink of death, we can't always bring you back from the death cycle. So there's certain people have certain expectations what you can do with healing. You can do a lot, but if you're on the point of dying from cancer and the soul is ready to go, we can't yank the soul back into the body.
Yeah, I think that it's important for people to understand that there are things going on at different levels and frequencies. Yeah, I would agree with that.
So I'm very, like, I have a statement on my website. I don't promise to cure things or guarantee to create cures. I'm here to help to heal on whatever way that we can heal, at the best modality. But again, I don't give people false hope. I don't create expectations of anything when people go in to heal with me. I say, the highest healing will happen for you that it's meant to happen. It
Yeah.
can't be forced. It can't be created with too much expectation of something.
But also healing is a journey.
Mm-hmm.
Even energetically, healing's
Yes.
a journey. So, when you look at the human energy field and everything that it contains, because if you look at the cosmic gateway, you're holding like universal paradigm templates that
Mm-hmm.
you've chosen, and then as you go down in density, it just becomes a bit more specific, and in
Exactly.
different detail, traumas are held in different areas of the energy field. So even the process of healing the energy field multidimensionally,
Mm.
bringing it back into oneness, it takes time. It takes understanding yourself. And while I'm using certain esoteric terms, so for example, I've seen soul fracturing at different levels. I've seen higher self constructs that have been fractured and distorted. And so sometimes I have to go to the I am, because the higher self is there's so much separation within that level of the identity. And it can all be rebuilt. But, people need to understand that they have to give themselves time, that it's a journey of self-responsibility and introspection. Yeah, and that it is a process. Now,
Mm-hmm.
healing can occur quite with relative speed. I use the term relative. You can make progress energetically. You can heal yourself and take the journey, but it's a journey, and you have to roll up your sleeves.
Yeah. And I always say we facilitate the highest healing possible for you, what you're ready for, what your body can accept, what your soul is willing to do as well. So I say it's not just the practitioner who's participating in the healing journey, you are also participating in it. And so it's really about also being open to the healing energies. Because if you're closed off and you don't believe in it, it's not going to happen. You have to be open and believe that the healing can happen, and to be accepting of it.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, and that goes in, that's in line with the concept of you have free will, and
Mm-hmm.
your free will won't be violated. So if you don't believe that you can be healed, or you don't believe that you can connect to your higher self, or anything like that, well, then nothing happens,
Mm-hmm.
because that belief is respected, and
Yes.
your belief creates an energy signature in your energy field, which
Mm-hmm.
is a blockage, and then that blockage has to be just deconstructed ultimately. So that's, if you want to heal, you genuinely have to come with an open mind and an open heart. And if you have too many beliefs which are self-limiting, well, that limits what can be done. I would
Mm-hmm.
even go one step further, that, I perceive my role more as a facilitator. I'm not really, I don't perceive myself as a healer per se. It's more that I'm guiding the person to help them heal themselves. I may be a conduit for higher frequencies. And I'm guided by my higher self, which understands the construct and the templating far beyond what I could articulate. But ultimately, it's that individual and their higher self with a bit of support that's doing all the work. When I'm working, it is the client that is authorizing and allowing everything. So similar to you, I'll chat with the client before we start to say, look, this is what we're really dealing with. And I want you to open up your heart and really set your intention to allow the work that we're going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then even when I'm working, I may run into a blockage. And if it doesn't shift, well, now I just ask, have they authorized removal? And I'll just get a yes or a no. If I'm told no, then I have to work with the client. Okay, this is the energetic blockage we're working with. It's through these different layers. It's spanning this, the energy signature is that, et cetera, et cetera. Can you identify with it from your heart space and let it go? And then we can remove it. It doesn't get removed until till the individual, the client sits there, recognizes it, and allows themselves to let it go.
Yeah, same with me. When I work, is if it's just me or the ETs, if they see something that needs to be shifted in the soul divine or in the physical body, but that blockage is not going away on its own, then they ask the client, well, what is this to you? What does this mean to you? And are you ready to let it go? Are you ready to dissolve it and totally, completely take it away from the body and the soul field frequencies? If they say yes, then I say, we would like your participation, and let's move this together out and dissolve it and heal it. Because if they don't participate in, in the process, it's not going to go away if they're carrying it like, like a mass.
Yeah.
If it's too thick energetically, and if they give permission to let it go, they also have to say, I want it gone completely. So it has to be in alignment, what's for their highest good, their highest healing. And this is what we always try to explain. If they're not understanding, what is this? They try to explain, and I try to explain, to have it so they're ready to release. They're ready to release all of it and have it totally leave the physical body and the energetics. Because if it lingers in some other layer, it's still there. And then you need to come back and go into those layers to remove it. And sometimes things come back. People re-traumatize themselves. It comes back in certain layers, energy frequencies. And then we go back in and we have to explain to them, oh, well, this thing is back because you're putting focus on this again. And
that's right. So if an individual identifies with like the core energy signature of that energy blockage or that density, and they go back like a negative feedback loop or self-sabotaging behavioral pattern, you will recreate it. So one thing that I think is really important for people to understand is every thought and emotion you have in every instant creates an energy signature in your energy field. And I think this is a really poignant point to make. It's an example. I was working on a client, and their energy field was quite blocked. And the flow of the energy was just lots of distortion. So we do an energy session. It's all nice and clear. And I check 2 weeks later, everything's, really happy, really great. The client comes back, say 3 weeks after the check. And this time, the heart space is really blocked multidimensionally, and it's distorting the flow of energy. And I was shown a box around the heart and the key thrown out. And I said to them, look, what's happened between the last time I looked at your energy field and now, because this is what's happening, this is what I'm seeing. And the client was quite cute and quite sweet. And they laughed and they said, oh, somebody took advantage of me. And in that moment, I didn't want anybody to hurt me again. So I literally put my heart in a box and threw out the key. So not only was I shown the box around the heart, she had created her box around the heart. It created a deep, dark blockage. And it wasn't at the very high frequencies. It was like second, third density. It was distorting her energy field. But that thought, that emotion created it. And she had never deconstructed it. So she thought she was helping herself. She thought she was protecting herself. But it was wreaking havoc throughout her energy field.
Yeah, I've done that to myself too, and I don't do it now. I don't put a box around my heart. I actually deal with the emotions head
Yeah,
on. I
yeah,
don't suppress, because when you create an energetic box around your heart and you throw away the key, you're actually not protecting yourself. You're sucking up all of that negative energy in that box, and it collects in the frequency and it squeezes the heart, and then it emotionally creates pain for you on the physical levels as well. Because what we
yeah.
do energetically, as a metaphor, it hurts the physical body.
Mm,
So it's like if you repress something or you create all these energetic armors around yourself,
yeah.
you're not letting emotion express itself. Yes, people take advantage of other people, but what are you learning from that experience? If you're just putting it away in a box and closing off the emotions, you're not processing what happened. You're not processing an emotion, and that's what creates these energetic blockages. So
Absolutely.
I'm sure she felt very uncomfortable because she wasn't working through the emotions. She was just suppressing them.
But I think we just had a bit of a laugh. I think it was a moment of a realization for her, and it was shifted, you know,
Mhm.
because anything that's been done can be undone energetically, you know.
Yes.
So don't beat yourself up. Just go, that was a mistake, and don't go there again. But to what you were saying about each of the chakras is working with different frequencies and concepts, and it has a specific role in the energy field multidimensionally. But like you said, that flow of emotion is so important to keep everything moving. If anything is held, stagnated, or repressed, it just builds and your energy system gets heavier and heavier and more congested, and it
Mhm.
just builds. So yeah, that concept of flow is really important energetically.
Yes, and that brings us back to Reiki. I think Reiki teaches us what the chakras are, how to find the blockages of energies and start to interpret it. But I find it's limiting in the form of the modality. It's just it allows you to incorporate crystals, but it doesn't teach you higher dimensional healing, how to do that. It teaches you one form of something, how to sense energy, how to find the blocks, how to shift them, how to, I don't think it even teaches you how to fully remove something from the body or the, energetic auric fields or the chakras. So I find that I would love it to be expanded and to be retaught differently.
I think every modality serves its purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are a number of those types of modalities that are great for an individual to start exploring energy and expanded consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
But I do see it as a stepping stone,
Yeah.
opening up, getting sensitive, learning about yourself, learning about your own energetic connections. And then many people grow beyond that,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, it's a good first stepping stone, a tool to learn energy frequency, to learn to sense blockages. But I wish more emphasis was taught on how to work with the energy. This is what I find is missing from most Reiki things. And it
Right.
took it took me years to learn that beyond the Reiki. And it is a little self-limiting and says this is one modality. You cannot modify this modality. This is what my teacher said to me. I went years later, sure, I can modify the modality because as a healer, we all need to learn and grow. So the
Mm.
modality can be modified after you finish all your Reiki levels, because practitioners are very strict. And the emphasis is when you're learning Reiki, stay with the tool that you're learning. And that is important. So you don't mix up too many things all at once. But again, once you've done all those things, you've learned the Reiki levels, start working with modifying the modalities to work for you in your healing. Because again, it doesn't have to be limiting. No healing modality is limited by whatever the creation is.
Yeah, I agree. And there are higher frequencies to work at. Like I find Reiki quite lovely,
Mhm.
It's very nice, but there are many higher frequencies, much more. There's a lot more sophisticated work that can be done. I actually teach Beyond Reiki classes to help people move from doing Reiki and understanding how to expand and connect with and develop their own skill set.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so important. And I thought we should mention that because as healers, we go beyond just one toolkit in a modality. We
Yeah.
constantly learn and upgrade energetically on the healing scales. Because
And also, what is true one day changes as we grow and as we learn more. Okay, that was the truth from that perspective. But now that I understand all of this, okay, now I understand a more sophisticated way to work with it. So we continue to grow and expand the more we work.
exactly. I remember you mentioned that you also do implant removal and entity removals. How do you do that?
I mean, how do I say this? So first of all, there's an element of specific work.
Mhm.
So what I find is I get a lot more out of an energy healing session if I go in beforehand and I do a scan and look at what I'm dealing with and ask questions. And then I come and I say, okay, I've seen all of this
Mhm.
and I want you to take care of as much of it as you can. Okay. So from that perspective, when I work, I also set the purview that don't limit the healing for this individual to just what I can do physically. I want all hands on the ground.
Mhm.
So yeah. So the whole energy field will be being worked on other than what I'm doing myself. As for entities and implants, you know, there are some that are they're all different, right? And they're held at different frequencies for different reasons. And really, I'm just kind of guided. And some are quite simple. It's just like picking like little bugs out and out they go. And others are highly sophisticated, energetic uh, implants that serve uh, well, they're all there to repress energy in different ways for different reasons and have different origins. In fact, I even find that some what we'll call implants are energetic blockages that the individual has created within themselves as a result of their own
Mhm.
soul journey. They can be there for all sorts of different reasons. So there's not a one answer fits all,
Mhm.
but I guess I'm just guided at how to take it out, and it's like that's it. And some are big and some are really sophisticated and complex, some aren't. They span the different densities. I've seen them. So I definitely going up to the ninth layer in the energy field. And then there's different types of interferences and schisms. I'm use the word schisms as we go up a little bit higher. But certainly from the ninth density down, there's all sorts of fascinating contraptions, you could say. As for entities, I think, how would I say this? Again, there are all sorts of different type of entities that are there for different reasons as well. I mean, this is opening up a can of worms. So, and then there's the concept of attachments. So there are some entities that are actually in the energy field and they access through one portal or multiple portals. So then you have to shut down the portal structure. And again, when you look at the average human energy field, there are portals all over the place, and the average human that's not overly aware. And when in multi-dimensionally throughout the harmonic triads, and these portals, okay, some are good. Some are like energetic cords. So we talk about, in the fourth density, energetic cords, but the portals create multidimensional cords through time and space to other lives, other connections, and that they're not for your highest and greatest good. So those all have to be shut down. Sometimes they're left open because the individual may still have a lesson that's connected to the portal. So obviously, if an entity comes through or is using a portal system, that whole network has to be shut down. Sometimes I've seen networks, sometimes it's just one. I mean, the scenarios are ubiquitous for all of this. There's not one size fits all, and every single human energy field is different, because everybody's soul journey's been unique and different. You know, you haven't even been, a lot of people are like, just tell me about my galactic history from this galaxy. But the vast majority of people, you've been to many other galaxies. You've incarnated at different frequencies in many different galaxies, and you've even been in different universes. Some of the nasties that I've seen, one thing I find very interesting is there's some people, it's like they wake up every day and they'll always feel anxiety, or they'll always feel heaviness or sorrow or sadness. What I found with these people is that there's an energetic signature that's come in that they brought with them from another universe. Often it's like often it's a darker universe. Won't even get into that. And it's been embedded in their energy field, and there will be energy signatures in their cosmic gateway, and then there will be energetic signatures in their cosmic sun star. And then there will be imprints or beacons of the frequency in different areas in their energy field at multiple densities. And you have to go in and clear top and bottom, and obviously the little beacons, to remove that overwhelming heaviness that they have. But which I just find fascinating. But then also, how do I say this? Gosh, there's so much to talk about when you get into this. What I also find, going to the concept of energetic sovereignty, because obviously if you have portals, you need to close all your portals, right? So they can't get in. Then you need to clear all the energies that aren't sovereign to your soul's divinity out, right? Yeah. So that's a process. Then you have to go within yourself, and you've got exalted soul aspects and wounded soul aspects. So then you have to journey into healing the wounded aspects of yourself. Well, when it comes to this concept of entities or energies which attach in your energy field that aren't sovereign to your soul's divinity, if you're carrying an energetic signature that's a low frequency, that can often attract these energies to you. So even though on day one, say your energy is clear, let's say you have a really bad day, you're really upset, you're really hurt, you can attract energies to you that may connect. And they may just sit as an attachment on the outside, but you'll feel it. You won't feel like quite yourself. You won't be able to heal from like that bad day because you've got this energy influencing your energy field. So there's all sorts of fascinating nuances that go on.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody is in a negative frequency vibration all the time, I've had examples where there's been demonic entities that attach to the person energetically, and they're making them do things, they're making them hear voices. So those beings have to be detached, removed, and then the wounded trauma of what they made the person do also has to be removed and healed.
Yeah.
Plus the back doors through which these beings came in have to be closed completely, and the energy removed from that completely. And there's parasitic entities that are not of a sentient frequency. They're just parasites that glomp onto energy, and they suck and suck and suck, and they suck on the negative energy, they suck on the positive energy. You have to go in and you have to clear these beings out, right? These parasites. You have to remove their residual slime, if you will, from the energetic frequencies, from the organs, you have to dissolve all of that, then you have to close the back doors.
Yeah, I call that portals.
Yes. And you have to make sure that all that energy from them is disentangled, detached from the individual, and all of that has to be healed. And if there's any wounds, energetic things, wounds and scars, you have to heal that and clear that as well. And from implants, big, small, energetic, they come in all sizes.
Yep.
And sometimes I've had to energetically break down large implants into bits and pieces to dissolve them, literally pull them out of the energetics from the person's auric fields or whatever it's attached to, or in the physical. Sometimes they're embedded so physically in the body somewhere, you have to pull it out. You have to pull its energy out. Then you have to dismantle it and remove it and heal the wounds and close the wounds. So like you said, there's so many variables in this. And sometimes people create entities from negative emotion. It's their own entities. It's not a demonic frequency. It's not a parasite. It's your own emotional entity that has to be cleared, and the blockages have to be cleared. And soul healing has to be done for those traumas. So it comes in all shapes and sizes and varieties, I would say too.
Yeah. And again, how do I say this? When people would have an energy that's not their own, that's influencing them, and it's cleared, I do find that it is really important for the individual to keep revisiting the concepts of energetic sovereignty, and to work on their mental and emotional states of being. Because if they go back into a negative feedback loop, they go back into that energetic signature. And while one entity or energy that is not an aspect of them may leave, another one can come back. So, being mindful of your thoughts, your emotions, how you perceive reality, it's actually, energy and consciousness is extraordinarily sophisticated. And I think too many humans don't understand the impact or consequences of their thoughts and behaviors. I think people will in the decades to come. But yeah, it's very important.
Yes, because frequency and energy plays a huge role in keeping the energetics in our body healthy and the physicality healthy. One and the other are very connected. So our emotions, our thoughts, our behaviors, they're all connected to our physical, emotional, and energetic health.
Yeah.
It's a holistic body. It's a whole system.
Yeah.
Mind, body, and soul, and the physicality. It's and the higher soul and the higher selves. They're all connected to our health and well-being. And you also had to, the way we met was interesting because you were talking about 48 stranded DNA.
Right.
And can you discuss a little bit about that and what's going on with our DNAs and this information that you know?
Right. So, well, I mean, I guess what I would say is there is a percentage of humans that are incarnated that will have these consciousness templates, at 24 or 48 strands. And obviously, consciousness goes much higher, at the much higher frequencies. The average human I think we have to keep it real. The average human is just looking to grow and access their higher self, maybe embody some of the I am consciousness energy signatures and working in the 12 layers or the 12 strands of DNA. Yeah, that's the big focus. There is a percentage of humans that have 24, and then there's an even smaller percentage of humans that have 48 strands. The way it was shown to me is that, say, of the humans which are carrying the potentiality of connecting to these higher consciousness templates, the hope was that at least 10% would wake up and start anchoring the frequencies in 10% of each class. So 10% of 48, and then 10% of what is, or 10% of 24, which is a greater number than the 10% of 48, to bring in and anchor energetics at different frequencies, knowledge, information, etc., etc. There have been some, I've had certain clients which will have these higher frequency templates that will need healing, because you can have damage in those higher frequencies that are affecting you in your current life. I'll be honest, I've worked up to about the 18th strand. I've not gotten to 24. There might be other people who are actively working up to 24. It'd be only a handful of people, I think, from the information I'm getting. And I think that's great. It's esoteric information. I think that's really wonderful. But I think, people who are interested in energy and who are interested in listening, that should keep their eye on the ball and start just working on clearing your energy field, accessing and anchoring your 24 strands. And also the way I see it's shown to me in the human energy field and consciousness, it's, you've got your toroidal sphere, so to speak. But, I've seen people who will be working in higher frequencies, but they have underdeveloped lower frequency aspects, like fourth, fifth, and sixth layers of their energy field aren't as well developed, maybe because they're more interested in those higher frequencies. But then I'll also find that because they haven't dealt with the lower areas of their energy field in the soul matrix, fourth, fifth, and sixth, they haven't gone through like key initiations that they need to be able to work, I'm going to use the term responsibly, in the higher frequencies. So when I look at the journey of consciousness, there are basic initiations or tests that the individual needs to go through. Discernment is extraordinarily important. Energetic sovereignty, extraordinarily important. Opening up and clearing the heart space, extraordinarily important. Now, it all interfaces organically, but if you have somebody working at the really, really high frequencies and they haven't gone through discernment, they're so easy to hack. If they don't know their own energetic sovereignty and if they haven't cleared their energy field sufficiently, it's so easy to interfere, influence, and redirect. So I will see a lot of people who will just get lost on their journey because they haven't, the integrity of the foundation of their expansion into consciousness hasn't been sufficiently developed.
Yeah, exactly. People ask me, I want to be a healer now. Well, you need to learn the healing modality. Whatever you want to focus on, understanding healing, you still have to learn that. Some people are healers within. They're just healers. They don't have to learn anything. They have it all together. But some people, they want to heal, but they have to have the foundation. So I'm like, don't skip the foundations. Don't skip the initiations. Do the work. People ask me, what does it mean to do the work? It means do the work, do the physical, do the energetic work to be the best at what you want to be. Because people are like, well, I don't want to work anymore. I don't want to live in this 3D frequency. But even as a healer, I learned the concepts of energy. I learned what the chakras are. I learned what the crystals are. This is knowledge that has come in over years of learning healing modalities, different ones, and experiencing different types of healings. It didn't just appear in my knowledge base and in my toolkit. I worked hard to learn a lot of these concepts. So it's doing the work means actually going in and doing the work, learning these things, understanding them, applying them. You can't skip the foundations and say, I'm 100% energy healer. I can just go and work on people to heal. You have to understand what healing is to do it properly. So I always say to people, make sure the person is certified, make sure they've done the work. They know what they're doing when they're going in to help heal you. Because if they don't know what they're doing, that can cause harm and that can cause pain. And our oath, I think, is do not cause harm, do not cause pain to anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What I would say also is that the journey of being a healer is you do need to heal yourself. Like you have to find people that take responsibility to clear out their own issues, because if they've got issues, they're going to have energetic blockages. They're
Yeah.
going to be weak points, you know? So yeah, but I couldn't agree with you more.
And again, it's an expansion journey. I'm always constantly learning, self-learning on how to improve the healing modalities. I don't stop learning.
There's so much we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even, I know when I'm working, I'm only understanding a fraction of what's really going on, what they're really doing, the impact and magnitude of what's happening. And there's so many different levels to understand on. So, like you said, yeah, this is a journey for a lifetime, clearing and expanding your energy field and expanding your consciousness. But also, when people say, I don't want to be on earth anymore, or I don't belong, what I would like to suggest is you did choose to come here. You did choose to serve a purpose. But the purpose, there are many levels and degrees of the purpose. There is the purpose to heal your energy field multidimensionally, the purpose to learn and have experiences so that your higher soul consciousness has more information and understanding. You've got the purpose for being here at this time in this now moment. Yeah. And it may not be valuable to you right now as you walk your path, but it's of value to other soul aspects, your higher self, et cetera, et cetera. But also then to create, the new earth. It's about uniting and anchoring heaven on earth. It is about bringing the higher frequency soul aspects, perspectives, and understanding in. It's about making that knowledge part of our everyday life. How do we make change if we don't change within ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
It all starts with each and every one of us. Walking the earth. You can't make change if we don't roll up our sleeves and put our feet on the ground,
Mm-hmm. And same with manifestation. You energetically manifest from above, so below. It's energy frequency coming up from the higher frequencies down here to manifest what we create. And if we don't do the work, the creation doesn't happen. So even creation, working with energy, you still put in the energetic frequencies that you need to do the work to manifest something. You don't just sit there by the water expecting rocks to come out from the water with the tide. You actually get into the water to find shells and rocks. Don't expect something to just swim up to you. You go into the water, you look around, you explore the water, you explore what's underneath, and you work with whatever you want to work with to create manifestation. Because manifestation is a toolkit. It's energy, it's frequency, it's desire, it's creation. But you have to understand the energies of what you're working with to create physicality, physical items into existence. So it's all about frequency and energy and intent, positive creation. If you have negative aspects around it, or if you doubt manifestation, creation, you're just putting roadblocks and you're not creating what you're supposed to create or want to create.
Yeah. And to the point about the positive and the negative, energy is neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Energy is neutral. You're a co-creator because you're imprinting the energy with your thoughts and your emotions. Your mind directs the energy, your heart sets the frequency. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's so important. And also, we're sitting here talking about energy feeling and clearing out your energy field, et cetera, et cetera. The more you clear out your energy field, the more you're anchoring those higher frequencies, the easier it is to manifest and shift and play with and manipulate energy. Because really, many of these energy blockages are just our self-limiting beliefs. If humans change their paradigm of how they related to energy, how they worked with reality would shift instantaneously. but we have to do it in processes because in steps, because we have to relearn what we've forgotten or didn't understand to begin with.
Definitely, I agree with that. And it's all about having a healthy perspective and understanding what you're working with, what you're developing, what stepping into your I am sovereignty, like you said.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and not being limited by anything, because if you put limitations, you limit what you can do. There's no limit to life. There's no limit to what we can do, because we can do anything as creator beings.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more on that.
And as a healer and as a psychic and anything that I do, I always, when I step into a session, I have an open mind. I don't want to know the backstory of something. I explore that in the session, so I'm not backloaded with information. And I also, sometimes what I find interesting in hypnosis is with the questions, they put their backstory of what happened. Sometimes they put like a whole story. I was abducted. This is what I remember. I'm like, put it in the question. If you were abducted and you have a memory of that, just short snippet of it in the question. Don't put the whole explanation of it, because that limits the opportunity of exploration. I don't need the whole backstory of the memory. Just phrase it in the question. What would you like to get out of more from that memory? Don't give me the whole experience, because that might be your perception of it. There's more behind the experience of what actually happened. So, and people give me notes with their questions. I'm like, that's great. This is something you've already figured out for yourself, and what you're giving me as the story in your notes. But there's more to that. So it's like, don't give me the backstory, because I don't want the backstory. That might be something they remember as what they think is the sequence, but the sequence can be very different in the hypnosis. Have you ever had that happen?
Yeah. I mean, I think it actually happens more frequently than people think, which is part of the beauty about bringing the higher self through. Yeah, I've had, that does happen, where people have their human 3D perspective. They'll have bizarre memories. There's this little bean when I woke up in the middle of the night, and then I chased it when I was little, but it disappeared under the sink, and trust me, it goes on and on and on and on. Every single memory or experience is legitimate. There's a reason for it, and it can be understood. So the person will always wonder and revisit and emotionally have a perspective, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Often then the higher self will come through and explain, okay, so the connection is for this reason. They were coming to check on you. They're looking after you. I often find that it's far more positive than the individual actually thinks that it is. In fact, often I will find even people, when they're looking back at their childhood and they want to have memories that they can remember, they think something terrible happened. But when the higher self comes through and starts explaining it, it's more that because they were a child, they didn't have the maturity to have a perspective of understanding what was happened. So the negative emotional imprint was worse than what actually happened. Like when you look at it as an adult, you're like, oh, it's no big deal. Oh, is that it? Oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah, and what we if we get a huge story that comes with a question is like, take the most important keywords out of that whole story description that you wrote, the sentence, take out the most important keywords and put it in your question to simplify the information. Because you can have long, beautiful sentences written out, but you're reading the whole thing and you're like, what's the most important thing out of these keywords? Grab the keywords out of the sentences and put it in your question for the hypnosis, because you don't need to read the whole story to get the answer. Just need a few keywords out of the story to formulate the question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with getting those kinds of long questions. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't. I just navigate it with the client and
Yeah. Well,
and
I I mean, I had one instance where there was 20 questions and every question had that story, all 20. And I said, just grab the key words out of the story that you have along with your question and put it in your question so that the question actually reflects your story.
So
And
you had the whole interview written out for you then, the whole interview period. You got all the information just written down.
well, the person wrote out the questions and they had notes on all their experiences. And I said, out of those notes, grab the key words, the key phrases out of those experiences and put it in the question. Because during a hypnosis session, we don't have 20 minutes to read out half a page of a story.
Yeah.
I wish we did, but sometimes we don't. So, and I said to that person, this is interesting. I read all the notes and I read everything, but out of the notes, I said, take the most important things that are most relevant, the key word terms, and put it in your question out of that note section, out of that story, so that the question is concise and precise to reflect the story of what you'd like to know more about that story. But
Yeah.
in simpler keywords, not in, half a page of a paragraph, because that's a lot of reading for us to do. And I know it has meaning to the person, but it needs to be condensed and it needs to because I love writing. I'm a great writer. I can write prose on and so colloquially, it's colloquial, it's beautiful, but it's like out of that whole page of a story, what's the most important bits and pieces? If I was to summarize it, what would I grab out of the story? What would I put in my sentence for a session?
Yeah. And I think, all clients are different and everybody comes to the table with different experiences, different perceptions, expectations.
Yes.
And sometimes that goes with some of the coaching. I will often sit and rewrite all of my clients' questions with them. And that's part of the process. We have 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they need help and guidance on detailing their questions or expanding them, I guess I think I'm okay with it being a bit organic. I take your point, your answer is only as good as your question.
Yes.
But, sometimes, often I will just, as we talk and go through the interview, we'll just start rewriting the questions in a format that will be more supportive for the client's experience. And that's fine.
Yeah. So I definitely, if I get those kinds of formats where they have their question, they have the story behind all of that, that's like creating a timeline of your experiences, what you remember. So that's like a timeline. And you can take that timeline and you can use it as a format to formulate your questions. And that's a great tool to actually do. That's why I'm bringing it up. So I helped the client, like you said, in the interview process. I said, take the most relevant things, keywords from that story, and put it into your question. Your question can be a little bit longer, and that's okay. It's a more detailed question, but it does not always need to be the full story. So it's like taking the story and the notes and formulating it into your questions. So there's the information, but it's condensed to its most important aspects and facts. Because again, you don't always, in writing, I've learned, you don't always need a ream of pages to explain something or to get to the details. You figure out what's the most important bits and you put it into your questions to get the answers. This is just like short script, shorthand, learning to write, summarizing things in very important ways. So these are all interesting things that I've learned from clients, how to help them to be more organized with their questions and answers. It's just like, and I learned from this experience, because sometimes I write timelines for my books and stuff, and doing what the client did actually works well for the timeline. So it's so interesting what you can learn from clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, so I thought I'd bring that example because it's you don't often I mostly just get questions with maybe one note or two from a client saying, well, this is what I'd like, this is my question, but this is what I'd like to focus on. Can you integrate that into the questions? And I say, yes, of course. And sometimes I change their questions too, or I will add something to it based on their needs. So questions are an evolving thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to bring that in a little bit to explore that with you, because the questions are very important for the session stuff, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, the questions, obviously, they set the parameters for chatting with the higher self. They set the parameters for the type of information that the client values and prioritizes. And also part of the significance of the interview process is, like you said, is to really delve deep with the client to make sure that you're asking the right questions based upon what's concerning or interests them. So yeah, often one question may become 5 questions or 7 questions, and some questions you just leave as they are on their face. But it all depends on what the topic means to the client and how important it is to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Jane, for coming on the show. And how can people find you and reach you?
No, first, I do want to say thank you so much for connecting with me and doing this. It's really lovely, and I've really enjoyed chatting with you. And like, I hope we stay in touch and keep chatting more and whatnot.
Definitely.
But you can connect with me at my website, www.quantumenergyhealing.co.uk, and I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. So there you go.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you. We covered so much interesting information, and I think you're one of the best people to have explained what QHHT is, what energy healing is, what's the differences between some of the modalities. So this is like really in-depth information. And I like to hear people's perspectives on things, because it's like everybody has something beautiful to bring and to chat with. And this has been a very interactive experience. So thank you so much.
Oh yeah. I was going to keep going, but you're right. All right. So everyone, thank you so much. And we'll chat again.
Definitely. Have a good evening.
Bye, Ileana. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.